I really just kind of week by week took what I knew and what I'd been doing one-on-one and what my expertise was in and was delivering it week by week in this live group and getting feedback every single week. It took me a year. I want to say that because none of this is quick or easy. This is hard work, as you know, Heather.
Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Teacher Biz Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Heather. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have this conversation today. Can we start by having you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you had an online business and how you got into this online business world?
Well, I'm 55 years old, so I'll try to quickly go through all those years, but I started out as a classroom teacher. I was a high school teacher after college, I started teaching in 91, got my master's degree in educational administration, thought that I would go on to become a principal and maybe even a superintendent. But a year after that, I just was seeing things, and this was back in the 90s, right? But I was seeing things in education where I was like, if this were a business, this wouldn't work. Like, this needs to be run better. And around that same time, we had started a family, had my first child. So I was feeling pulled a lot of different ways, and I made the decision to leave the classroom back in 99, started my first business. Actually, it was my second business, but started a business in the educational arena, test prep, tutoring, one-on-one academic support, which then morphed into college counseling one-on-one, which then I was having difficulty building really good college lists for students because I was realizing a lot of these kids don't know what they want to do. Like, what is the end goal of college? College is expensive. Just finished paying for it for my youngest, and she graduates in a few weeks. And I thought, gosh, we have to get better outcomes. So I doubled down on college major and career coaching and started doing that one-on-one. And then in 2018, I end up in Forbes for that as part of an interview for something they had. And that kind of exploded outside of the Cincinnati area where I'm from. And yeah, that brings us up to then creating an online business, which is very different than my first business, which was brick and mortar, in person, all the things, pre-COVID.
I love hearing that journey. I feel like it's always this loop-de-loo, one thing leads to another, that kind of brings us to where we are. But I think, so many similarities there. I also left the classroom to stay home with my kids. And it is, just so much more freedom on the
Yes.
outside. Can you share with us what your business looks like now, what your structure is, and where your customers kind of flow into your business?
Sure. So I still own the business that is the test prep, and it just serves a local community here in Cincinnati, which is a huge metropolitan area. So there's plenty of business. But I have a really great team over there running that for me, and I don't spend a lot of time over there any longer. So I decided so after the Forbes thing happened, what happened was I was getting so many requests for one-on-one college major and career coaching for teens and young adults that the demand far outpaced the available time. And then I'm on, Eastern time zone. So there were these families that I really wanted to help that lived on the West Coast, or they were in Hawaii or British Columbia, and significant time challenges. And I didn't want to stay up that late, and I didn't want to work on the weekends to make the time zones work. I think my biggest one was a client in Hong Kong. So we were either 12 hours or 13 hours apart. I'd start my morning very early with them. And I thought, okay, I've got to do this better. I got to do it differently. I feel very called to help teens and young adults figure this piece out, this very important, crucial piece. It's also supporting their parents, because their parents are like, I don't know how to advise them. And so that's when I had the idea of creating an online course. And so I spun that service off into a separate company, Flourish Coaching. Our website's flourishcoachingco.com. And all we do there is the college major and career coaching piece. And all we do there is the group course with live support. So I have a tiny team of contractors that support me, which is amazing. But it's a completely different business model than I have done the past 25 years with the other business.
Yeah, I love that move to reaching more people with less of the actual demand of your time on your end. Can you share with us a little bit about what that looks like for you as a business owner and maybe that experience moving into having this digital course so that you're no longer trading your time for money?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I actually started like my course that we now have, I started with a pilot. So I did a free pilot. It actually cost me money because we give every student the Berkman personality assessment as part of my course. So, but it was like, it was a good investment in figuring this out. So I just did a week by week live call with a group of families. I was hoping to get 12 to 16, and I had 50 that wanted in, and I took 25. And I did like a survey every week afterwards. So I really just kind of week by week took what I knew and what I'd been doing one-on-one and what my expertise was in, and was delivering it week by week in this live group and getting feedback every single week. So then that led into creating the course that then I live launched the first time. So a year later, it took me a year. I want to say that because none of this is quick or easy. This is hard work, as you know, Heather. And so I took a year. That pilot was October of 2020, and I launched my course in September of 21. Now, when I say I launched my course, that was a live launch. And it was all then, the course was recorded, it was delivered on my online platform, all the things. So I was working on developing the course, but I also was working really hard on list building and already had a brand. Like I intentionally was like, okay, here's our brand, created a website while I'm simultaneously creating the course behind the scenes so I could start list building. So I had something to launch to. So that first launch was September of 21. 5 live launches later, I was like, I'm tired from the live launching in the same way that I'd been tired from the one-on-one work. And so well, it was literally a year ago, started figuring out Evergreen, and then I moved to Evergreen in July of 23.
Can you tell my listeners who might not know what it means to have an evergreen course?
Sure. So, kind of give you my funnel a little bit. Does that help? So, what happens is somebody's got awareness of our brand. They're probably following along. I also have a podcast, College and Career Clarity. And so that's a common place for people to funnel in. And then I'll mention that I have this course. So what I do, instead of having a live launch webinar where people can attend my masterclass and ask questions, which is what I was doing back then, I actually have a pre-recorded webinar that's a class, and they get access to it I have a time element to mine. So it's not always open. So we use Deadline Funnel as a fantastic, I would say that's the only piece of software or an app that you have to pull off the way we do Evergreen. But you can come in, you watch our video, we kind of educate people on the need, just like you would in a live masterclass. And then they have an option to enroll in the course that we have for 6 days. That first time, we give them an opportunity to purchase in that first 6 days at our fast action price, which is the lowest price that they'll ever see the course for. Then after that, anytime that enrollment opens for them, it'll be at it's a $300 higher cost. So, and I used to think like nobody's going to buy in the regular, and people do. It's wild. I think it's because the time's right, or they thought they didn't need it, and now they realize they need it. But yeah, it really, like, we're supporting people who send in questions or people who have enrolled, but we don't have that hustle of like, okay, we're going to do 3 live launch webinars, and it's just it's an easier lifestyle. I used to freak out, like, what happens if I'm live launching and I get sick? And I was in the hospital with cellulitis one day. It was in my first live launch. I had cellulitis from a bee sting, and I was hours away from a master class. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to make it? Like, what am I going to be there on time? And I did, but I was like, that was uncomfortable to me.
Absolutely. I a few podcast episodes ago recorded one about everything that went wrong for me in my last live launch. So I feel that so much between sick kids and snow days and all and technology, all of the things.
It is
Um,
not for the faint of heart, is
yeah,
it? I like
yeah.
last summer, I had to have rotator cuff and bicep tendinosis surgery. It put me out. It was a significant surgery, but because I was on Evergreen, I sold like $18,000 worth of courses in the month of July when I had my surgery and I didn't work at all.
I love that. What a huge perk of having it on Evergreen.
Yes. And it doesn't mean like you can't, it allows you to step out, right? And take a breather for something. As we're recording this, we're having our first grandchild this week. We have 5 kids, 22 to 32. It's like I can step out, but like it's not an opportunity to be lazy. You've always got to be list building. You've always got to be supporting your people. So, but it does allow you to step back when you want to.
I love that. And so you've talked about this a little bit, but tell us about the list building. Can you share with our listeners a few things that you did there to grow your list, especially in those early days, which I think is where most of our listeners are right now?
Yeah, list building's hard. Honestly, I think it's harder, at least for me in my niche, which is very niche down, super niche down. And there's a lot of different reasons why I went that route. But um, list building has been the biggest challenge for me. So when I intentionally, before I even had the course, I got the website up and I did a quiz. I started a weekly newsletter where I just talked about a thing here or there. I actually created a format for my newsletter. So I give a free resource from me. So at some point that became my podcast episode. I ended up then doing a free resource that they could find out in the wild of the web, and then a conversation queue for any of the parents who wanted to use it with their child. So that consistently, I literally since May of 2021 have not missed a week of a newsletter. It's just showing up consistently and then finding what works. We recently just got a really new, great lead magnet that is building my list 5 to 10 people a day. And that's been significant. It was hard. I mean, I want everybody to hear that. This is spring of 24. So I've been list building for 3 years. And probably my best one that resonates most with like the work that we're doing and people are responding to, it took almost 3 years to really nail that one. I've had other really popular ones where it was a little more general and it didn't convert into the course as well. That's a metric that eventually you have to keep track of after you're up and running.
Well, tell us what this new lead magnet is. Tell us about
Oh,
it.
sure. So we did this extensive, and I think this too speaks to the time investment. Okay,
Mm.
I already said like how hard it was to build the course, right? And even converting to Evergreen was a lot of work. So this last one, we reached out to the 50 state flagship universities. So for all 50 states, so for in Ohio, that's Ohio State, Georgia, University of Georgia, you get the idea. So for all of those, we reached out to the admissions office and we said, when you admit a student to your university, are you admitting them directly into their major so they're confident they have a secured spot in the aerospace engineering or the nursing or the business program? Or are you admitting them only to the university and they can later figure out their college major? Because we're all about helping kids get clear on what the career implication is for this when they start adulting, right? And what we found was the majority of the schools admit directly to major, which says that your teenager needs to know before they go to those universities. There was another group that we just said it's complicated. So they admit directly to some majors, not to others. And then the third group, which was the smallest, only 8 of the 50 states said, no, you get admitted to the university and you can later figure it out. But of those 8, 4 of them still require students to share what their intended major is. So it's still going to take a role on play a role on whether they get admitted or not. And so there's these untold truths about what's happening in the admissions office at the university that parents don't realize, because there's this rhetoric that, well, we're rushing kids and they've got all the time to figure it out and they can figure it out when they get there. And the reality is options are limited once their feet are already on campus. So we're really trying to push the colleges for more transparency and help the families get equipped to make these crucial decisions on time so that they still have lots of options available to them.
Nice. So then you packaged all that research into this lead magnet.
Yes. So the lead magnet specifically is, so they hit a landing page. We build everything out in Kajabi. I was using lead pages originally because, oh my gosh, lead pages, do you use them, Heather?
Yeah, I use lead pages.
Okay, so lead pages are such a great resource because it's so easy to build your own page, right? But I pay $2,000 a year for Kajabi where my course is. And so finally, Lead Pages was getting ready to renew. And I was like, oh, this is silly. I'm paying almost $1,000 over there, $2,000 for Kajabi. So I paid a contractor to rebuild all of my lead magnets over in Kajabi on landing pages. And then, so ultimately, he charged me less than I was going to pay Lead Pages for the year. Now they're over there. And he created me a template so that myself or my assistant Kayla, we can go in and create a new landing page. So they go to the landing page, they opt in. I have Kajabi landing page connected via Zapier to, I use ConvertKit for my email service provider. Do you as well?
Yeah, I love ConvertKit.
I do too. I tried to do email in Kajabi and I felt like it was super wonky and was wasting some of my time. And I'm not a super patient person. So they go in there, and then we've got this funnel, this email funnel that we're doing. What we ultimately give them is a spreadsheet of all of our findings from the universities, a short teaching video from me, 6 minutes, keep it short, is on this other landing page that they get access to once they opt in, and then a worksheet that actually, it's not even a worksheet. It's our email template that we used with the university. So somebody can swipe our email copy. And then if they say, oh, well, yes, we live in Ohio, we want to go to school in Ohio, and my kid doesn't want to go to Ohio State, they want to go to one of the other universities in Ohio, swipe my email copy, email the admissions office, you're going to get the same answers we know so that you're an educated consumer. So we give them 3 things: a data set, a teaching video, an email swipe copy that's a PDF. And then we nurture them through an email funnel. And then after about 6 weeks or so, then they get access to that. We say, hey, do you want to get this? We've got another treat for you. It's this webinar that we have. And then that's the opt-in for the course.
I love that. That is such a smart funnel there. I like the 3 things and the freebie. There's something magic about the number 3, I think.
I agree.
And using that template is just a really smart thing, I think, to include for your people. I love it. All right, we veered a little bit talking about list building, but that's that's one of my favorite topics.
Well, you can't do a course if you don't list build, right?
Or really any type of digital product that you're trying to sell.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's such magic in a list. I'm a little obsessed with email marketing. That's my favorite way to advertise for sure. What would you say to my teacher listeners who are now thinking about making that same move that we both did and stepping away from the classroom and into running their own online business? Do you have any advice that you would give to them, or just knowledge to share?
You're going to have to be brave. Big goals are usually scary. Ask yourself, what would it make possible? I'm a business coach as well. I keep a roster of 10 executive coaching clients who are small business owners. And these are the things that we really work on, a lot around mindset and goal setting, right? And so with that, good goals are risky. They're a little scary. It's okay to be afraid. And find your community. You do not have to go at this alone. So whether it's getting a coach, whether it is joining a community. You and I met through Momentum, Amy Porterfield's back-end membership community, and surrounding yourself with people that are doing the same hard work will help normalize some of the struggles and help you get through the hardest days. But ask yourself, like, is this the right decision for you? What would it make possible for you to do it? And what's at risk if you don't? Those are the two questions to get clear on. Like, it's not going to be for everybody. And it's going to be, it's a different kind of hard. And I do recognize that the classroom is way harder today than it was when I abandoned it in 1999. And I don't ever, I mean, that was 25 years ago. I don't ever regret the action that I took to go ahead and step out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do think there's magic in being in a community of other people who are also running their own online businesses. And there's almost like this colleague kind of relationship, even though we're not in the same business together,
Yeah,
we're all in our own, but you need people who get what you're talking about and who are also in the trenches. I think that's really important to be successful in online business. You can't do this alone.
I agree. It's very lonely if you try to, and I think you'll get discouraged if you do. And quite frankly, like, yes, we pay to be part in that community. I've done paid coaching groups with Michael Hyatt in the past. I was a coach for his company when they had Business Accelerator. There are plenty of paid options, but you can put together your own.
Mhm.
I meet in a mastermind group. We meet in person 4 times a year,
Oh,
and it's we just split the cost of our meeting room and pay our own way. So it doesn't have to cost a lot. And I'm sure there's like free Facebook groups out there and things like that as well. Even like, I know there's a Kajabi community. I'm not in it because I have somebody that runs my Kajabi site for me. But even sites like that, or ConvertKit probably has a community, like those are free and would be super helpful to any of your listeners who go ahead and take the plunge.
I completely agree. I'm in several paid communities, which I think is a great way to kind of broaden your group of people. But when I first started my very first online business, I kind of just picked out people who seemed
Mhm.
like people I'd want to be friends with, who seemed like they were around the same stage of business as me. And I just cold emailed them, which is a brave thing to do. It's kind of uncomfortable. But two of those people are still years later my very best business friends that we Voxer
Yes.
every day. So there's really something to that, to reaching out to people and building those relationships.
Well, and that's where your listeners might actually start to see like who those people are that resonate with them if they join some of these free Facebook groups for different platforms they use or whatnot. Like ultimately, this mastermind that I meet with, they're all high performers. Most of us were business coaches for Michael Hyatt when he had Business Accelerator. And you'll find your people and be brave. I think, Heather, that's fantastic. Like you just cold emailed people. You find your people.
This has been such a great conversation. Tell us what you're working on and excited for in your business now.
So, and this will seem counterintuitive to what I just said about live launching, but we are going to do a special enrollment period with our course. Our course is called Launch Career Clarity. And so we're going to do a special enrollment period right after Memorial Day that we're working on right now. So again, I want to say to your listeners, like I started working on this March 1st and it won't launch until after Memorial Day. You've got to give yourself time to do all the work. You got to carve out the time on your calendars. So our special enrollment would be like they get the course, but if you join during that time, you're also going to get a bonus course so that your teenager gets support on how to write the why this major and why this college essays that colleges often require. And obviously, that bonus goes along really well with the theme of our course. So we're just trying to get all those things dialed in to do it after Memorial Day.
Ooh, I love that. I want to highlight that for my listeners. If you have any kind of product, but specifically a course or maybe a membership too that's open all of the time instead of a open cart, closed cart model, using a bonus as an incentive, especially a really juicy one like that sounds like, is a great way to get some more people into your program and add that sense of urgency to it.
Yeah, and that'll be, there will be a little bit of a live launch component. I'm going to do a few live webinars It'll at that point have been almost a year and a half since I've live launched. And so I'm okay to go back and do, it's not going to be full on like Amy Porterfield style live launch. And it's not going to just be evergreen. So it's going to be a mix that I feel I'm all about like fitting in with our life, right? Like we're empty nesters. Our youngest is graduating from college. We're becoming grandparents. We have two of our kids engaged, getting married. And I want to be available for all those things. And so we're just trying to create the life that I want.
I love it. It sounds so good. I want to hear how that launch goes. So be sure to come back and
Absolutely.
tell me. And
Absolutely.
tell our listeners where they can find you online. We'll put the link to that freebie if you send it to me in our show notes, but
Yeah.
tell us where we
So
can find you.
that really fantastic freebie is flourishcoachingco.com/majors. And then that's our website, flourishcoachingco.com. And we use Flourish Coaching Co. on most social media channels. So that is the best way to find us. And my podcast is College and Career Clarity.
Awesome. For listeners who have those older teens that are thinking about
Yeah.
college, be sure to go over and listen to that.
Heather,
Thanks
it's
so
going
much.
to be you before you know it. Time flies with these kiddos.
Oh my goodness, it sure does. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Lisa. This is great.
Thanks for having me.